Two things for today. Reading this article from the student's book, Straightforward, Upper-intermediate student's book, authored by Philip Kerr and Siri Jones, MacMillan Publishing House. And the second thing is overviewing the conditionals in English. Let's start with reading the article. The Many Faces of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger, bodybuilder, film star, millionaire, governor of the state of California. Will this man one day be president? If Arnie's fans have their way, he will. They are campaigning to amend the Constitution so that the U.S. citizen born outside the United States can run for office. And provided they win, there is no doubt that Arnie will have his sights set on the White House. Schwarzenegger is, to many, an embodiment of the American dream. He arrived in the States in 1968 at the age of 21, with no money to his name and barely speaking English, but in little over a year he was a millionaire, running his own mail-order firms selling bodybuilding equipment. Things were definitely going his way. In the 1970s, he was Mr. Universe. In the 1980s, he was the world's greatest action hero, starring in films like Terminator, Predator, and Total Recall. In the 1990s, he got involved with politics when President George Bush Sr. appointed him as chairman to the President's Council on Physical Fitness. He is now governor of one of the largest states in the United States. But how did it all start? Arnie's dad wanted his son to become a footballer. Arnie trained hard with his local team and showed promise. He would probably have become a professional footballer if his coach hadn't taken him to a gym one day. Arnie tried out the weights and fell in love with bodybuilding. 5 years later, Arnie won the 1966 Mr. Europe title. He was on his way. Arnie was committed to making a career for himself as an actor, and he was sure that his Mr. Universe body would get him there. He was right. He worked hard. He made the right contacts and became one of the US's biggest box office successes in the 80s and 90s. And what about Arnie the politician? Many say he wouldn't be where he is today unless he'd met and married Maria Shriver, a member of the influential Kennedy family. They may not share political views. Maria is a Democrat and Arnie has always stood under a Republican banner, but she always stands by him. And as all politicians know, a long, stable relationship. He and Maria have been together for nearly 30 years. Certainly helps win votes, so long as he can point to the happy family photos. He and Maria have 4 children. He'll be able to fight off the Hollywood playboy image. Can family man Arnold Schwarzenegger, American citizen since 1983, make American history and become the first president with a foreign accent? We'll have to wait and see. His fans may be able to change the Constitution, but would Americans really vote for a President Schwarzenegger if they had the chance? Stranger things have happened in the movies. Let's now look at the text to find out all the conditional sentences there. So, the first sentence. If Arnie's fans have their way, he will. What does it mean he will? It's a follow-up of the previous sentence, which is, will this man one day be president? If Arnie's fans have their way, he will. Okay, so the conditional sentence, if Arnie's fans have their way, he will, contains two clauses or two parts. The first is, if Arnie's fans have their way, and the second is, he will. If Arnie's fans have their way is the situation. This clause is called conditional clause, or it expresses the situation, or maybe describes the situation. The second part of the conditional sentence, he will, is the result. It describes the result of the situation and is called main clause. Usually, the conditional clauses which describe the situation start with a word. It is a word to introduce the situation. In our first sentence, the word to introduce the situation is if. Let's look at the other conditional sentences in the text. And provided they win, there is no doubt that Arnie will have his sights set on the White House. The red is the situation described by the conditional clause, and the second is the result described by the main clause or the result clause. Our situation is introduced in the conditional clause by the word provided. If provided. The next conditional sentence. He would probably have become a professional bodybuilder if his coach hadn't taken him to a gym one day. The conditional clause is second here. If this coach hadn't taken him to a gym one day, the word to introduce the situation is if again, and the result or the main clause is he would probably have become a professional footballer. As you can see here, we don't have a comma between the two clauses because if is the second in the sentence, while in the first, when the conditional clause is first in the sentence, we have a comma between the two clauses. So you can see the same comma in the second conditional sentence, where the conditional clause is first. And what about Arnie the politician? Many say he wouldn't be where he is today unless he'd met and married Maria Shriver, etc. It's a more complex conditional sentence. The main clause is yellow. He wouldn't be where he is today. And the conditional clause or the situation, unless he'd met and married Maria Shriver. The next, so long as he can point to the happy family photos, he will be able to fight off the Hollywood Playboy image. The conditional clause is so long as he can point to the happy family photos. The word to introduce the situation, actually it is an expression, is so long as, and the result is he'll be able to find off the Hollywood Playboy image. The next page. Only one conditional sentence here. But would Americans really vote for President Schwarzenegger if they had the chance? So it's again a more complex sentence. There is a conditional part. The result is in yellow again. Would Americans really vote for President Schwarzenegger? And the situation is if they had the chance.